Heard the explosion, ran to help the people get out of the badly damaged structure. We spoke to one woman who saw it from just a few yards away.
I was, I guess, half a block away on Kirkham Street when I saw it happen. There was just literally an explosion, and then 2 or 3 more explosions followed afterwards. And first thing I did was call the police. This 19th Avenue was packed. There was traffic backed up all the way down the street. And the first thing I saw was traffic, just crashing noises on top of the explosion sounds, and then glass, and then everyone just came out.
Just a huge explosion. I was just on the phone, and I got my phone sitting here because I ran out the door with it. But it was just a huge pop, and we had no idea. We thought it was like a gas main blowing or something. So.
Now, the latest figures that we have just received suggest that 17 people have been injured. 6 of those people are children. 1 adult has been critically injured with major burns and lacerations. 1 firefighter was also suffering from smoke inhalation. Many of these people have already obviously been taken away to the hospital, and we will have certainly more information. As that information is available to us, we will come back later in the newscast with that information if warranted. I'm Tom Vacar reporting live from 19th Avenue. Diane, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. People gathered in San Francisco today to witness the end of an era. In a matter of seconds, a public housing project that was both a center of crime and an eyesore came tumbling down. Greg Liggins was among those to witness history today. He's in our newsroom with a report. Greg?
Well, Diane, these 2 buildings are now just a pile of rubble. It was quite a scene in San Francisco's Visitation Valley this afternoon. The stage had been set for the implosion of the notorious Geneva Towers, and thousands of people from all around the Bay Area went to see the buildings come down.
I don't know. I thought that would be cool. I've seen it on TV, but I've never seen it in person before.
Thousands came to witness San Francisco history. The surrounding hills were dotted with spectators. Others took to their rooftops. The setting was like a theater, with the Geneva Towers acting as star of the show.
You couldn't have asked for a better stage.
When the curtain rose, the action began.
I've never seen a building go down by explosives, so, you know, it's kind of exciting to see it come down like that.
It seemed like it happened real fast.
Dust filtered across the landscape as the complex was brought to its knees, though not everyone was impressed.
It wasn't as big as I thought.
Are you disappointed?
A little.
But most people enjoyed watching the behemoth snap, buckle, and crumble to the ground.
It was certainly exciting.
At first it started going boom, boom, boom.
I'd say we had a perfect job.
It's a lot better in seeing it in real life than television.
Go see buildings blow up. You know, it's pretty cool.
And here's a look at the aftermath. This is what 600 pounds of explosives can do to a twin 20-story building. Work crews will spend the next couple of weeks clearing away all the debris. Diane.
Greg Liggins live in our newsroom. Thank you, Greg. Nearly 30 years of problems at that public housing project came to an end in a matter of seconds today. Julie Haener takes a look back at the Geneva Towers' troubled past and a look ahead to what will be built in its place.
Even though one of San Francisco's most notable failures is now history, the memories of its checkered past aren't so easily erased. The public housing project in Visitation Valley was a place plagued by drugs, killings, and mismanagement for nearly 30 years. Firefighters on hand for today's demolition say they remember the danger of responding to calls there all too well.
Be bottles, rocks thrown at you, large angry crowds, bowling balls thrown at you, bicycles dropped from roofs. Anything they could get their hands on and throw, they would throw.
The 20-story Twin Towers were built in 1967 as a private apartment complex for middle-income tenants, but they failed to attract renters, so the Geneva Towers turned into public housing. Over the years, as the owners failed to maintain the property, the complex fell apart. At the same time, it became popular turf for rival gangs and drug dealers. The crime and housing conditions got so bad, the federal government took it over in 1991, then closed it 3 years ago. Today, many of the former residents returned to say goodbye. Despite its troubled past, some say this is the only home they've ever known, which makes today's implosion bittersweet.
For the majority of the tenants, it was good. We got along very well, and everybody loved everybody, and we knew everybody, and we were a happy family.
You know, I've went in and out of the building throughout my life, growing up and everything, childhood, and now that the building's going to be destroyed, it's kind of sad, you know, to see it go.
The federal government, along with San Francisco, plan to spend $74 million to revitalize the neighborhood. 341 low-rise housing units will be built here, including nearly 100 units for seniors. Job training, police, health, and social services will also be provided.
Oh, I think it's the best thing that ever happened to this neighborhood.
Even though it's being torn down, it's the beginning of a new day.
Crews will go to work beginning Monday to remove the piles of rubble. Officials say it'll take about 2 years before the replacement housing here is complete. In San Francisco, Julie Haener for the 10 o'clock news.
From Sonoma County, a fishing boat capsized in Bodega Bay this morning, killing 2 men and slightly injuring 2 others. Sonoma County Sheriff's officials say the 4 men were fishing in a 16-foot boat when a pair of waves pushed the boat onto some rocks near shore. 2 of the men, aged 66 and 75 years old, were unconscious when rescuers pulled them out of the water. Emergency crews were unable to revive them. 2 other men, aged 31 and 42 years old, scrambled onto a nearby rock where they were rescued by a helicopter and nearby boater. Both men were suffering from shock and hypothermia, but they're expected to make a full recovery. All 4 men were from the Rancho Cordova area east of Sacramento. There were reports tonight of a riot on Telegraph Avenue near the UC Berkeley campus. It started around 8 o'clock this evening. Berkeley police say about 100 people marched down Telegraph Avenue near Dwight Street and began burning items they brought with them. Some of them reportedly set fires to televisions and a sofa. It's still not clear what sparked the protest, but business owners on Telegraph tell the 10 o'clock news they think it was directed at the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. There were no reports of looting or arrests. Several police riot units are still on the scene to monitor the situation. New high-tech security equipment now in use at SFO is under fire tonight. A Transportation Department study found that million-dollar bomb detection machines at airports across the country not only allow explosives to pass through undetected, but also often send out false alarms. As a result, many airports are not regularly using the expensive devices. The Federal Aviation Administration says the reason the machines are not being used is because the airlines have developed other security methods. The bomb detection machines are made by Envision Technologies of Foster City. Tonight, officials at the Reed Hilview Airport in San Jose are investigating this helicopter crash. It occurred about 11 o'clock this morning. Witnesses say the helicopter touched down, then toppled over. No one on the ground was injured. The 2 people aboard the chopper also walked away unharmed. They were apparently on a training flight. There is still much more ahead on the 10 o'clock news. Up next, there are reports police in Fremont have a suspect and a motive for a string of bombings in that city. Also tonight, a special report on the candy kids. Kids who use the sweet cell to sell the sweet stuff. But that's only part of the story. A bit later, a very big software maker is about to collide with a very big government after talks to avoid the collision go sour. And the death of a legendary pop singer may send sales of his songs to Jupiter or even Mars. The 10 o'clock news continues in less than 2 minutes.
A beautiful part of San Francisco served as home for an ugly time in American history. Today, a ceremony in the Presidio helps heal the wounds. I'm John Sasaki. The story still ahead.
Gargantua.
A Fremont man with a background in chemistry and a grudge against police is reportedly the focus of the investigation into a string of bombings last March. 6 bombs were planted over a 3-day period. One of the targeted homes belonged to Fremont's police chief and another to the former chief. According to the San Jose Mercury, the target of the police investigation is a man with an ongoing grudge against police. He's said to be an officer at a firm that does electronics and materials engineering. The newspaper says investigators have searched the man's home 3 times and are still awaiting results of lab tests on materials they found there. The man was reportedly asked to testify about the bombings before a grand jury, but declined. So far, police are not calling him a suspect. 2 months ago, the 10 o'clock news did a series of reports on adults that hired children to sell candy. It showed children in danger and adults breaking several child labor laws. KTVU investigative reports has found many of the children who sell that candy aren't allowed to keep much of the profits. Leslie Griffith reports.
Wait, slow down. What are you selling?
We give you candy from America. You development?
Candy? What kind of candy?
How many times have you seen them in front of banks, shopping centers, even at your front door? They sell candy, and there are hundreds of them in the Bay Area. State officials call them the Candy Kids.
It goes like in our account, like to go towards our chips, because we saving up, like it's like a fundraiser, like. So that's what we do with the money.
So do you ever see the money?
Mm-hmm. Like when we go on a trip in the summer. Last time we went to Disneyland, and this time we're trying to go to Magic Mountain and stuff like that.
That is the sales pitch. The kids talk about trips many of them never take. They sell candy for charitable-sounding organizations with names such as Youth in Action, Teen Leaders of California, American Youth Development, and the list goes on. Some are legally tax-exempt nonprofits, but according to our investigation, many are simply exploiting children and pocketing great sums of cash, and little is being done to stop it. Here, Channel 2 producer Roland DeWolk asked a child selling candy next to an ATM how old he is.
How old are you?
15.
You're 15? How old are you? You 10 also?
That's illegal, but not unusual for these groups. We found children as young as 8 years old selling candy many miles from home, and it wasn't always safe getting there.
There is no seats and no seat belts, so we'd be kind of sitting on the floor. Someone would be on the floor and someone would be up on the tire part of the truck sitting. And a lot of the time, if he slammed on the brakes or something, someone would go flying towards the front of the van.
Jill worked as a candy kid when she was just 13 years old.
You're walking all day, essentially, with no breaks and no lunch breaks, nothing like that. You'd be out sometimes till 8. The latest we were out was 10 o'clock. Older men would pick up on you, and sometimes people would follow you. If you were out all day and you only sold 6, you'd make $6, about $6.
So it's about $1?
Yeah, about $1 to $1.25 each sale.
All money that changes hands is in cash, making it impossible to trace.
The man who drove our van used to brag about how much money he could make on a night if we did well, during a week. He would tell us he could make upwards of $1,000 a week.
This man, who asked that we just call him Brett, worked as one of those drivers until 3 years ago. Today, he says he regrets it.
The most shocking part for me was the person that was training me and showing me what they were doing. When I was just getting the job, I went out with a person named Mikey that was running this building right here, and I watched him sucker kids himself.
The Candy Kids operation no longer operates out of the building. Brett got the job by responding to an ad in a Bay Area newspaper promising lots of money for little work.
And then sometimes it would take them 6, 7 hours to make $4 or $2. Some people wouldn't make any money if they didn't sell anything. There was no guaranteed money. And then on top of that, they would be suckered into actually buying the candy themselves.
Brett finally stopped driving Candy Kids when this man stepped in. Fremont police officer Patrick Mayo has spent 5 years trying to protect Candy Kids in his booming East Bay city.
The kids are being exploited. It's modern-day enslavement, if you look at it.
Mayo says many local police are not trained to enforce child labor laws, that the state labor commissioner is failing to enforce the laws, and some politicians are just looking the other way.
So while the legislatures want to look good in front of the camera and in front of their constituents, putting the cocaine dealers and the violent criminals away, these economic enslavement people are just exploiting the heck out of our children. And they're targeting the poor minorities. They're not after the rich white kids up in the hills. They're after the poor little kids in the ghetto.
Tomorrow night, KTVU investigative reports will show you the most notorious candy kid business, which reaches from 3,000 miles away to control the lives and the destinies of hundreds of Bay Area children. I'm Leslie Griffith for the 10 o'clock news.
Still ahead on the 10 o'clock news, we'll go back to reporter Tom Vacar for a live update on this explosion in the Sunset District tonight. Also coming up, a wrenching period in American history came to a kind of end today with the honoring of 3 men who stood by their convictions.
Today was a mixture of sunshine and clouds and showers in the Bay Area, snow in the Sierra Nevada. When is it all going to end? I don't think you're going to like the answer to that question a little later on the forecast.
I did it my way.
The death of Frank Sinatra is bringing new life to his music business. I'm Brian Bandmiller. The legacy of Frank Sinatra still ahead.
Anything you can.
As we told you at the beginning of tonight's newscast, a major explosion in San Francisco's Sunset District tonight has blown one home off its foundation and set fire to 2 others. At least 16 people have been taken to local hospital, and Tom Vacar is on the scene with the very latest. Tom?
That's right. That number is up to 17 now. One of those people being an injured firefighter who got smoke inhalation. 8 o'clock this evening, the house just blew up and a fire started. 17 people injured, 6 of those children. 1 adult critically injured with bad burns. As I said, 1 firefighter with smoke inhalation. The question, of course, is what caused this? What's going on here? Speculation has run wild.
What we think might have happened or what we feel could have happened has to basically go under investigation. We have to determine if it was a gas explosion, if this was an explosion due to some other means. As far as reports of whether it's due to a drug lab or anything, that all has to be investigated before we can actually say what caused it. What we were more worried about was...
Get a fun